The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright. This is the Citizen Report with Jonathan Shannon.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon in North Carolina.
I'm David Howler in Oklahoma.
And thank you for joining us. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always good to be back with you. And David, it's great. It's incredible to have you back on tonight. I think the last time we did the show together, co-anchored it together, was literally around Election Day, maybe just before that. And wow, what a different world we live in. And I know that you've stepped back from your daily anchor duties. You know, your regular anchor duties. You're still chief weather correspondent, and you're also now a contributor to the broadcast. So you're very, very much still part of the show. And David, it's great to have you back. Thanks for being on tonight.
Thank you so much, and it's good to be back. And yeah, you said, boy, what a difference a few months has made since this election, and now with this new Biden administration, you know, a lot of agencies now have the ability now to, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which American you ask, they're going to answer certain individuals, and this one is no different here. And this time around, it involves broadcasting.
That's correct. As it turns out, the Sinclair Broadcast Group, which is a conservative-leaning TV station group that owns, I think, over 200 stations across the country, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can fact check me on that, but they own quite a few stations around the country, and there's a good chance, people watching us here in the United States, there's a good chance that you live either in a market or neighboring a market that has a Sinclair station. So this is a very big company. And David, I'm going to let you do the coverage on this, but I'm just going to say real quick. It turns out the Maryland, one of the state officials in the state of Maryland, turns out that they have an axe to grind when it comes to Sinclair Broadcast Group because of their political leanings.
That is correct. In fact, the Baltimore City Attorney Marilyn Mosby is going after WBFF Fox 45 in Baltimore for among the charges, basically slanderous coverage, from what I understand, making threats to Mosby herself, her children, and quite a few different things. Obviously, we're not going to get to every single bit of it, but you know, just to show everybody the gist of it, I'll just go ahead and share the whole thing here.
Okay.
Yep, I'm gonna share the whole thing. Minimize this. Go here. There we go. So basically, this is the Baltimore Sun. All right. So that's the newspaper. And it says the Baltimore State's Attorney's Office has said it filed a complaint with the FCC on Wednesday, but that was back on May 6th when this was reported, requesting an investigation of WBFF Fox 45. The letter of the complaint written by Zy Richardson, so it's basically the communications director writing this, alleges a pattern of coverage of the office is, quote, blatantly slanted, dishonest, misleading, racist, and extremely dangerous, end quote. And then it goes on to say it further charges that the station has engaged in what, quote, appears to be an intentional crusade against Baltimore State Attorney Marilyn Mosby, which, quote, which given today's politically charged and divisive environment is extremely dangerous, close quote. So Jonathan and I, Jonathan, we talked about this off air. I believe what Mosby is doing is basically setting a dangerous precedent for this, because now this opens up the door for another government agency or whatever to go after the station for these same charges that I just read off to another station. That right there in itself is a very dangerous precedent, because think about this. Governor DeSantis' office could have had easily done that to quite a few stations that were very aggressive on his office throughout the whole COVID process last year, if you think about it. But of course, DeSantis never did that. There again, this is a very dangerous precedent, and I think both sides are guilty as the other. I'll just say that. I think on WBF's side, yes, they definitely do have a First Amendment right. They definitely have that. But if I were in charge of the station, I would have basically told my anchors and my reporters, don't talk about the investigation, because if we do, that's going to open up a totally different can of worms that we don't want to be opened, which could mean possibly our license being taken away, different things like that. So I think WBFF is guilty in that regard, and then Mosby is definitely guilty of just overall opening up the can of worms of, just overall creating a dangerous precedent to where now, if I were an investigative reporter, now I would be afraid to go after a state agency or a public official, because if I did it too much, I could be risking, myself or my station being charged with, those crimes.
Well, it's a very interesting development, and it certainly raises more questions than answers on the motives of this. But one thing I will say personally, I think that this is definitely a shot across the bow. Basically, she's trying to go after Sinclair, that owns Fox 45, WBFF in Baltimore. And basically, the implication is that if you are a conservative-leaning news outlet, and if you come against a Democrat, there's going to be political retribution against you for doing that coverage. And on the other side of the fence, if this precedent is allowed to be set, because let's face it, any form of news, any form of censorship against any news outlet is a bad thing, because what could happen on the other side, because in my opinion, Governor DeSantis down in Florida, he has a lot of very, dare I say, bias against him coverage about his handling of the COVID situation, and he could say, well, I'm going to use this precedent, so I want this, this station shut down or something like that. I want this owner to not be allowed to operate in broadcasting. So all around, it is a dangerous precedent that this Maryland state official is trying to set here. And while we're on that subject, I want to read some to the audience. This is from the Baltimore Sun as well. This is from May 10th. The headline reads, FCC Commissioner blasts call from Mosby's office for investigation of WBFF. And basically what it's getting at is the commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission. Now, granted, this only reflects the opinion of this one commissioner. I'm just going to be perfectly clear on that. But this is a quote from, and again, his name is Brandon Carr at the Federal Communications Commission. This is what he says. He was appointed, by the way, to the commission by President Donald Trump. Let's see here. Okay, this is what he says, and I quote, "The state attorney's office complaint alleges that there is troubling, abhorrent, and outright dangerous conduct going on here. They are correct in this respect. It is the conduct of the state attorney's office that is troubling, abhorrent, and outright dangerous, unquote, his statement said. So we even now have someone at the Federal Communications Commission, the very federal agency responsible for issuance of federal, or I should say, broadcast licenses for TV and radio stations. And he's even saying that what she's doing is, in his words, troubling, abhorrent, and outright dangerous conduct. So I don't know. It kind of gives me pause to think, well, maybe this won't really go anywhere. But you know something, David? I wouldn't put it past these people, because what the president's being said here is that if you challenge the government, and this is the essence of this country. You have the right to freedom of the speech, freedom of the press. You have the right for redress of grievances. We have the right to criticize something going on in government that we don't approve of. And for a TV station that's maybe asking questions, hard questions, hopefully, and if now they're saying, well, because of that, you're not allowed. You should be not allowed to operate in broadcasting. That goes against the very fabric of the First Amendment, David.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It definitely does go against the very fabric of the First Amendment. What Mosby is doing, and like I said, this is just opening up a can of worms to, potentially, other agencies to go after TV stations for coverage that they don't like. Yeah, I totally agree that this probably should not go anywhere. This probably should not, even go anywhere. But the thing is, this is Sinclair that we're talking about here, and this is, not only that, but we're talking about a Democratic official here, and I think the odds are, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your point of view, it's going to probably go somewhere. How far it goes, I don't know, but it's going to go somewhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly, I agree, sadly. And there's two things I would say to that. One is it just adds more fuel to the fire, because there's this unprecedented social media censorship as we speak. Yours truly, my show, The Citizen Report, had one of its episodes pulled from YouTube. I forget exactly when, maybe a couple weeks ago at the most. And I said certain things they didn't approve of, so down the video went. And I was given a warning for that. So this is this is just yet another dangerous precedent that the deep state, the D's, the Democrats, what they're setting is basically, what they're basically saying is that if you go against what their narrative is, we're coming after you in some form or another. It might be on social media that your YouTube channel is taken down or your YouTube video is taken down. On broadcasting, it may mean that we challenge your license. And that's another thing. Regardless of the point of view you have, as long as you're not doing something illegal, you have the right to express your political beliefs. You have the right to engage freedom of speech, freedom of the press, as long as you're not doing something illegal, unlawful. And that's the problem here, is that they're trying to say that if you are being tough on a government official, that now they say that you have to be silenced. And that's kind of what this is. And like you said, David, this sets a dangerous precedent where someone on the Republican side could do it against a left-leaning outlet. And what our point here is that we're saying, as long as you're not doing something unlawful or illegal, we're not being hypocrites, by the way. We're just saying, as long as you're not doing something, generally speaking, that's illegal, then you have the right to have your say. And this needs to be thrown out with prejudice. And if it goes somewhere, then it'll be a shame. It will be a shame if it goes somewhere. And by the way, I'm not saying that Sinclair is a perfect company. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that, like you said, David, it sets a very dangerous precedent that could come back to bite them, the Democrats. So if they really want to play this game of Russian roulette, well, don't be surprised if an ABC owned and operated station, for example, comes under fire, with its license. If they want to play fair, let's play fair.
Yep. The Democrats have just, opened up a can of worms to where now a Democrat could challenge its license of a, left-leaning station. I mean, heck, DeSantis could even challenge WTSP, for example.
Right. Right. Any station that runs a left-leaning agenda, they can now, if we're going to be fair here, then someone should say, well, okay, let's see if your license should be revoked. Because seriously, I thought the point of the FCC was to what they really should be anyway is the gatekeeper of issuing licenses. They shouldn't be the police always stepping in. And that's where, and I think that's another point I want to make. The FCC, in my opinion, already intervenes too many times. And maybe I'm being too libertarian on this, but this is just my personal opinion on the matter. They need to allow private individuals, if they have a grievance against a news outlet, they should sue them. Absolutely. Take them to court. Let's see what happens. But don't go after their ability to speak and broadcast freedom of the press, because that's just completely un-American at that point. As long as you're not doing something unlawful or illegal against another person, then you have the freedom of the press. That's just the way it is.
That's right.
And if we keep going down this path, David, dare I say, it will start to look a lot more like the Stasi of East Germany. Because if we start moderating freedom of the press to the point that only one narrative is tolerated, then how is that going to be any different than a communist country? Because the answer to that is we will basically become a communist system if people can only tout one opinion and one opinion only. And I know that sounds over the top, but I can't bring myself to say anything different, because that's just how I see it.
All right.
Yeah. So it just points out that the Democrats, they really are just showing their true colors. They're showing, and I'm not just saying the Democrats for the Democrats. There's bad Republicans too. I mean, I'm just going to be totally honest. There are bad Republicans, and that's why we call them rhinos. But when they go as far as to say that WBFF should not be allowed to broadcast, or I should say, if Sinclair is told they're not allowed to broadcast because they cover things in a certain way, then we don't have a country anymore. That's not America. And it's right. It's perfectly right of that one FCC commissioner to call her out for it. And I hope that that's what the opinion of the FCC at large will stand. I hope that that's what the FCC will treat this, that they just say, thanks. We'll duly note that our receipt of your letter, and that's the end of it. Because her letter is just that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, at least that's the way it should go.
Yeah.
At least that's the way it should go. But I don't know if it's going to go, that way, because of course now the FCC is in the Democrats' control, and they'll do as they see fit, and unfortunately, I think the way that they see fit is that dangerous path that we're about to go on as a country, unfortunately.
And I think this also plays into what I believe is going on, that people are frankly being allowed to see what it's like to live under a communist system, because people are seeing this and they're saying, wait a second, we don't agree with this. And I think that this is being allowed to happen. We're seeing the clowns in action on full display. And I hope that people wake up and they say, I may not agree with your opinion, but I don't want to tell someone that they're not allowed to broadcast. That's what I would hope other people would be like, but I guess time will tell. But I tend to be on the optimistic side of things overall.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay as optimistic as I can as well, but just knowing the fact that the Democrats are in control, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens, But I would hope that that this complaint goes nowhere, because otherwise, as we've basically been making a point, it will set a dangerous precedent. Let me read to you before we wrap this up. I want to read another quote from the actual FCC commissioner. Again, let me say his name again, just so we're perfectly clear. Federal Communications Commissioner Brendan Carr. This is an additional quote from him, and this is what it reads. 1 second. Okay, and I quote, "Yet this complaint is part of a recent and troubling surge in efforts by Democrat officials to pressure the FCC and its regulated entities into censoring news coverage and political speech that Democrats don't like. The FCC should make clear that it will not operate as the DNC's speech police. That is why the FCC must dismiss this complaint with prejudice by the end of today. No journalist should have a complaint like this from their city's top prosecutor hanging over their newsroom." That's a quote from him. So, hopefully, as we said, it won't go anywhere. I don't know of other developments since this report. But we'll certainly keep tabs on this without a doubt.
Yep, we definitely will do that as we see fit.
That's right. Alrighty, David. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to pass along to my viewers? Now is your time. Feel free to say whatever you want.
I don't have any final thoughts really, other than keep tabs on the weather situation coming up this week, and it's that time of the year in traditional tornado alley. May tornadoes are probably to be expected.
Right.
Severe and especially severe weather in general. The big concern that I did not mention about off air is the flooding rainfall potential across parts of the Southern Plains region. Some of the computer guys are saying some parts of Oklahoma and Texas could receive close to about 10 inches of rain here total over the next several days ahead. As a result of heavy rainfall. So that's another development that I'm keeping an eye on from the Weather Center. And of course, if anything happens on tornadoes or anything like that, I will be on top of it.
All righty, David. I'm sure you'll stay on top of it, as you said, and everyone can go to David's Facebook page for that weather coverage. He does a good job with that. So be sure to go on over to his Facebook page and give him a follow or whatever, and keep tabs on his weather coverage. So, David, it's been good having you back on tonight. Feels like old times. So like I said at the beginning of the show, off the top of the show, I said it's been first time we've co-anchored together since November, and actually you were on the show one time after that in a pre-taped message about I think it was about weather, and that was it. I mean, it's been a while, so great to have you back on tonight, David, and just know you're always welcome to come back on the show. Just holler at me, and I'll bring you on, and you're always welcome here, David.
Thank you so much, and it feels good to be back, and if anything happens, I of course will be back.
All righty. And just a quick note to viewers at home, there's a slight internet issue tonight on, I think, David's end, most likely. But thankfully, the audio came through okay, I think. So just wanted to make that note. The picture, I know it's a little pixelated, but at least the audio came through. As I said off air, as long as the audio comes through, that's better. That's yeah.
That
Yeah.
That is an issue. That's just one of those circumstances beyond my control, unfortunately.
I totally understand.
This office where I'm currently broadcasting from, the Wi-Fi signal into this room is not the greatest.
Yeah.
I'll just be straight up honest right now. It's just simply not the greatest.
Right.
But
that's perfectly understandable.
I just make do with what I have.
There you go, and you're doing great. I mean, like I said, and it's like my broadcast teacher said when I was going through my broadcast program. She said something in essence of, the audio is most important, which is absolutely true, because you can have video that's maybe lesser quality, but you absolutely have to have good audio. So it's good that the audio came through okay, and that as long as we have that, that's good. So, and I totally understand your situation, because until months ago we had terrible internet here, constantly dropping out, and having Spectrum coming out here constantly. So finally seemed to have got that fixed on our end, but I totally understand your situation, David. It's always frustrating. So anyways, before I wrap up, just
not to mention, sorry to cut you off there. Not to mention, my YouTube uploads, in some cases, it can take me hours on end just for me to upload one video, depending on how big the video is. It can take that long.
Yeah, you may have canceling and starting over, but I don't know if you'd get any better doing that, or just setting yourself back further. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. It's I just let it go. It's just not worth canceling, because all it's going to do is just have more time, and with it being Saturday night and church coming up tomorrow, in the morning, I just simply don't have time for that.
No, I totally get it, David. It's perfectly understandable. So, but anyways, great to have you on. And like I said earlier, you're welcome back to come back anytime. Just holler at me and I'll bring you on. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. And just to my viewers, just a quick note, you can always go to our website, citizenreport.tv. Make sure you bookmark that, because that's the new domain name. So if anything should happen to my free Weebly template, if anything should happen, if Weebly decides they don't like what I say, I still have a domain. I can take it and reroute it elsewhere. You can find me on YouTube, Jonathan Ryan Shannon, on Rumble at The Citizen Report. Eventually, I will be uploading most new episodes to Rumble. That will not happen just yet. I'll make an announcement in a future episode when that will happen. But so anyways, God bless each and every one of you. Great to have you back on, David, again. And I will see you right back here again next time here on The Citizen Report. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.